All right, now before we move on, I want to take a few minutes and talk about a pretty big Microsoft update, which is the new Power BI ribbon. Now, important thing to note here, back in November 2019, Microsoft introduced a brand new redesigned ribbon experience for Power BI Desktop. Now, this was originally a preview feature, which meant that you had to activate or enable that feature in order to access it. But in March and April 2020, Microsoft rolled this out to general availability, which means that anyone using current versions of Power BI will see this new ribbon by default. So, what does that mean? What's new here? Well, first of all, we've got a bunch of new contextual menus. And contextual menus are menus that only appear or get activated by specific user selections. So, by selecting a visual, you'll access menus like the formatting menu or the data drill menu. By selecting items in your field list, you'll see table specific tools, column tools, or measure tools. And this is great because it helps us organize those different specific categories of tools and only expose them when they're relevant or necessary. Next up, you'll see a much more consistent style and structure across all of the Office applications, including Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. Really nice to see that consistency no matter which Office tool you're using. Third is that we have new accessibility tools. So Microsoft is introducing the same Alt key tip functionality that we've seen in Excel and PowerPoint right here into Power BI Desktop. You also have tab controls, basically options that help you access the tools you need without needing to use a mouse. And then last but not least, the final thing that I'll call out here is that we've got a bunch of new report themes and much more intuitive design previews. Now, if you open up Power BI Desktop and you don't see the new ribbon experience, open up your options menu and look for a checkbox that says updated ribbon. You may need to activate that depending on which specific version of Power BI Desktop you're using. And note that I've also included a link down at the bottom of the slide. This just goes out to the Microsoft documentation page where you'll learn a little bit more about the ribbon experience. Now, one thing I'll call out here is that most of you will find this new ribbon very, very intuitive. All the same tools are there. Most of them are in the same exact place. It just has a little bit of a different look and feel. But that said, I've actually made two pretty significant updates to the course since initially recording to help make sure people are following along as smoothly as possible. For one, I updated all of the slides in the PDF file for download to reflect the new current ribbon experience. And number two, anytime in the course demos where I'm accessing a tool that may have changed locations with this update, you'll see an overlay that looks something like this, which basically tells you where you can find that tool in the current version of Power BI. So anytime you see this, go ahead and pause your screen, make sure you're able to follow along, and hopefully that helps. Now, if I've missed any points or if you're still stuck at any points in time, go ahead and reach out to our team through the Q&A forum or the discussion board. We'd be happy to help make those updates. So last but not least, just want to give you a very quick tour through some of these new tabs. Keep in mind, these slides are really just designed to serve as a reference point that you can jump back to in case you get stuck, but I want to call out a few important things here. So on the report view, I'm going to walk through each of the tabs that you can access, starting with Home and Insert. Biggest change here is that the original tools that were all compressed into the Home tab in the old ribbon are now split across the Home tab and a new Insert menu. You'll see all the same stuff here, copy paste options, get data, data sources, refresh, new visuals, measures, all of that. Biggest changes that you'll find, in fact, probably the number one biggest point of confusion is that edit queries is now called transform data. Does the exact same thing, launches the query editor, just changed the name. And on the Insert tab, you'll see kind of a new focus on these newer AI visuals, Power Apps, things like Q&A, key influencers, and decomposition trees. Really great new tools. If you haven't seen that AI section of the course yet, go ahead and check it out. Really great demos there. Next up, we've got the Modeling tab. Very, very similar. You can manage your relationships, add measures and tables here, parameters, view as roles. Got the View tab. This is where you'll see some differences. Starting with those themes. You can define custom themes, and these previews make it much more intuitive to see how the look and feel of your report will change by selecting these different themes. You might also notice this Performance Analyzer button that's been kind of surfaced here in the new ribbon. This is out of scope of this course, but it's a great way to help you tune and optimize reports, see how long calculations take to run, visuals take to render, things like that. And then last but not least, you've got the Help tab, which is essentially identical to what you've seen in the past. Documentation, videos, links to support, blog and community, and so on. Now the asterisks here basically just tell you that these two tabs, Home and Help, can be found or accessible across every single view, report, data, and model. Now in the report view, you'll also see a couple different contextual menus, like the Format and Data Drill menus. And these are only going to appear when you have a visual selected. And inside of these menus, you're going to find the same old tools that you're used to seeing. You can access alignment tools, you can edit visual interactions, configure your drill down and drill through functionality. We'll talk about all that stuff later. Another thing to note here, you can access contextual menus like table tools, column tools, and measure tools right here in your report view as well by selecting items in your field list, which we're going to talk about next. So data view tabs. What are the contextual menus that you can access inside of your data view? Well, if we look at our field list here, first and foremost, if you select a table, you'll see a new menu called Table Tools. And as you might expect, this is where you can access things like table attributes, you can manage your relationships, add calculations and measures, and so on. When you select a column from your field list, you'll see a new menu specifically populated with column tools. You can access your column attributes, set data types and column formats, sorting and grouping tools here as well. And then last but not least, when you select a measure, you get your third contextual menu called the Measure Tools menu. And this is where you can determine which home table a measure is assigned to, set a measure format, add a data category, and so on and so forth. So again, quick pass through these menus. Keep these slides on hand as a reference, but hopefully you're able to follow along pretty smoothly. With that, let's go ahead and continue with the rest of the course.